Thank you for joining us today on another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. Hey there, I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner. And this episode today is brought to you by NIKKI, Unleash the Wellness Within. NIKKI is a wearable, non-invasive device that fits on your wrist. It's a highly effective approach to optimize wellness, and it puts frequency-based better life in your hands and on your wrist. Today's special guest, we got Miss Ali Moresco. She's the founder of Moresco PR and the executive board of Project Lyme. And we're going to go dive deep into Lyme disease and all the fun stuff and not fun stuff that is, and all the different ways that we, can overcome this together, right? Because the same tide raises all ships. And that's part of one of the beautiful things that this little device can do is help support folks with Lyme and mold and co-infections. And Ali has just recently doing some consulting work with us as well, and we just absolutely thrilled to have her on board. So give everybody a warm welcome to Miss Ali.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored.
I'm so excited to have you on. I told you on our first team meeting, I'm fangirling a little bit. I'm just so excited to see people, who are just doing incredible things in this space because it's desperately needed.
Yes, it is, and it's been interesting over the last 9 years where when I was first diagnosed, there really weren't very many people doing things in this space and advocating and kind of stepping in and doing what needs to be done. So I'm really, really humbled and really, really proud when I look around now and I see people like you, people like Stephen, people in the advocacy space, and the political space, and the medical space, the research space that are kind of stepping up and really taking care of this community and doing what needs to be done. That was non-existent, 8 or 9 years ago. So it feels really good to see that.
Absolutely. Hey, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey and why you got into the Lyme space? Because most of us, I would say 99.9% of us in the Lyme space have a story.
Yeah, everybody has a story, right? And even though everyone's stories are so, so different, they are eerily similar in some way, shape, or form. So I always find it so interesting to listen to. But for a lot of reasons, I'm kind of an odd duck. I was young when I was finally diagnosed. So backtracking a little bit, I looking back on when I got sick and then eventually leading to my diagnosis 2 years later, I was just graduating college. I had spent quite a bit of time working at NIKKI doing college research for them. Back at that point, I had a fashion blog before everybody and their mom and their dog and so on and so forth had a blog. So it was kind of unheard of at the time. And they had just opened a concept store in Lincoln Park, which is where DePaul is, which is where I went to college. And the whole purpose of this concept store was to see how specific demographics of women shopped. So at the time, they were really trying to look at how your college age girl shopped. And for some reason, they were only getting Lincoln Park moms coming in to shop at the store, and they couldn't quite figure out the disconnect. So I had done some work with them through my fashion blog, eventually joined their team in the middle of college. So I was very young when this happened, but really credit them with setting me up for what I do now and for being as knowledgeable as I am now in the PR and communications space. And I say that because, like so many people with Lyme and tick-borne illness, I was never one of those people that just sat around and ate bonbons and partied in college and did nothing, right? I was a very, very driven person. And I had a lot that I wanted to accomplish. So by the time I was graduating college, I got a call from someone that I met through the NIKKI sphere and through my blogging sphere personally that said, "Hey, do you want to come work on this partnership between Sundance Film Festival and Acura?" And I was like, "Yes." So I started going and working at Sundance every year, and that eventually led me through the connections that I made, into starting my own celebrity and entertainment PR firm. So this was all in my last year of college. Finally graduated college, all the things. And about a year later, I went to Northern Michigan with he was my boyfriend at the time. Now he's my husband of 6 years, with my husband and his family. And if you know me, you know I have spent most of my life in cities. I am not a woodsy girl. I'm not like have never been camping, will never go camping for many reasons now, obviously, but not my thing. But I still knew, like, to wear bug spray, wear tick repellent, wear a hat in the woods, all of those things, because my parents are originally from the East Coast, where tick-borne illness, Lyme disease, is very prevalent. So went to Northern Michigan for the first time for a week and wore bug spray, wore a hat, came home from Michigan to the city of Chicago and had cold and flu-like symptoms. And I started to get this spotted leopard rash all over my body that you can still see a little bit of 9 years later, and went to my GP. And she said, "Oh, you're fine. You have a summer flu. You have a summer flu. You're fine." Never got better. So every couple of weeks, I was in my GP's office at a very large hospital system in Chicago saying, "This is wrong, that's wrong." And there was always an explanation, right? You have a stomach flu, you have food poisoning, you have a cold, you have a sinus infection, blah, 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 blah. So eventually, so this went on for 2 years, and it really ebbed and flowed. Some days I was okay, some days I felt horrible, some weeks and months I felt horrible. I saw every specialist under the book. They misdiagnosed me with thyroid cancer. I had 3 biopsies of my thyroid. They tested me for, everything from lupus to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma to Crohn's, like you name it. I was tested for it, never came back with anything. And then, oh, I just realized I kind of missed an important piece of the story, but when I had initially gone to see my GP, my mom went with me because, of course, I was afraid. And she had asked my GP, "Can you please test Allie for Lyme disease?" Because, like I said, my mom lived in New York, she lived in Connecticut, was very aware. And the GP said to my mom, "Anyone who tests your daughter for Lyme disease is a charlatan." And I will never forget that. And I know that I'm not the only person who has a story like that. I think a lot of people have very similar stories of asking and being told, "Oh, no, you can't possibly have that," or "It's not real," or "If you do have that, you're fine. It just has to run its course," so on and so forth. But anyway, ironically, 2 years later, within this same hospital system, I saw a different specialist, an ENT, who looked at me and was like, "I think you might have Lyme disease." Tested me for Lyme disease with the Western blot. And on the Western blot, 2 years later, I came back positive. Um, and thankfully, he knew enough to refer me to a tick-borne disease specialist, to a Lyme literate MD. Um, and I started my treatment journey, with that Lyme literate MD, and was with him, for years and years. And I really credit him with saving my life. Had a PICC line, did years of IV antibiotics. I have 6 co-infections, including babesiosis and Bartonella, which can be very difficult to treat. So I've kind of got like that perfect mix, and eventually, unfortunately, I pretty much became bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed for about 2 years, needed help going to the bathroom, getting up, going up and down stairs, really couldn't eat, lost the ability to swallow, had very severe brain fog, muscle and joint pain, was very weak, lost a lot of weight, was basically skin and bones. And also, ironically, that's when so many people would tell me that didn't know I was sick, "Oh my God, you look great. You look amazing." And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of, like, do not comment on people's bodies unless you're like, "You're glowing," or like, "Your eyes look healthy," or like, I'm like, don't tell me I look good, because I could be at my sickest moment
Sad
from
the
other
fashion
people
industry
too.
can be, huh? I mean, like,
Yes. Oh
like
yeah.
back when that, even heroin chic came out. So that reminded
Yes.
me of why I was so drawn to you and why I just think you're such a cool kid, is because I was in the hairstyle, I was a hairstylist for 15 years
Yes.
and was in I wanted to be in the fashion industry. I wanted to go to New York, and
Yes.
ended up getting pregnant and doing the domestic thing,
Yes.
down here. So you live, right, the lifestyle that I was always looking for. So I was like, that's why I was like, you're such a cool kid. that you got to do
Oh
all
my
that
God.
incredible stuff. But yes, how sad it is it that once we start losing weight because we're sick, people go, "Oh
I
my God, you
know.
look amazing."
I know.
You're like,
It's a
"No, I'm on
lot.
my deathbed."
Yes, I feel horrible. My organs are shutting down. Which did happen, like my organs started to shut down and, I developed heart palpitations and, all these other things. But, like I said, eventually became bedridden, had to stop working, for 2 years. And, I would never wish this illness upon anybody, not even my like very worst enemy. Um, but it really did bring me, I feel like, my true purpose in life, which is health, wellness, advocating for others, really deeply wanting to see a change in this system for people, even outside of those living with Lyme and tick-borne disease. Everyone with a chronic debilitating illness or rare disease is struggling, and it's not their fault. It's the system, and it's the lack of compassion, lack of understanding, and within the medical system, the lack of physicians and specialists being willing to look outside of the box when they can't fit you in this neat little box with your symptoms, that leads to lack of accurate diagnosis and so on and so forth. And in this period of really not being able to work and not being able to get out of bed, I even then I struggle to sit still. I struggle to not have a project. And that's who I am to this day, even when I don't feel well.
You talked about
And
eerily similarities between folks, and I have found the biggest people who have gotten tucked down with this aren't the ones that
mhm,
were sitting down and eating bonbons. It's that
yeah,
type A personality, burning the candle at
yes,
both ends, right? That kind of leaves
yes.
you a little bit
Oh
more
yeah.
susceptible to catching these types of critters when they're going around. So yeah, it definitely
Oh
a
yeah.
common thread I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we run ourselves down, and we just push and push and push and go and go and go. And eventually you do just burn out and your body's like, "Hey, wait, I need a minute, like, cool it." Um, but even when my body forced me to cool it, I really struggled with, quote unquote, doing nothing, even though I was freaking fighting for my life. Looking back on it, I wasn't doing nothing. I was trying to stay alive. But whatever. But I ended up in my spare time that I now had, sitting and researching organizations and nonprofits, and found one, on the East Coast and just like blindly reached out and was like, "Hey, this is who I am. This is where I live. I'd love to get involved. I'd love to fundraise for you." And didn't hear back, kind of wrote it off. And then 3 months later, heard back from them. And they connected me with another patient in the tick-borne illness world whose name was Casey Passon. Sadly, she passed away 6 years ago. Um, and her and I went on to raise a lot of money for this organization. We hosted their second and third largest revenue generating events, for this organization, for about 5 years. So raised a lot of money, met a lot of patients, participated in a lot of advocacy. And in this time, it really opened my eyes to the fact that I was not the only one with this story. I was not the only one who was told nothing was wrong with me, tick-borne illness wasn't real, and that was just debilitated, by this disease and the co-infections that comes with it. And I really realized that I had to do something about it and that I would never be happy, unless I did. So going back to saying that I feel like this brought me to my true life's purpose, like I said, wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but I don't think I would have figured it out otherwise.
I'm like, I'll ask people, and I either get one or two responses. I'll ask them, what are
Mhm.
the gifts of Lyme disease? And I either get folks
Yeah.
still deeply, deeply embedded
Yes.
in the victim story,
Absolutely.
sadly, or I'll get those folks like you and I that go, oh, yeah, no, it completely put me on a different trajectory that I'm actually now
Absolutely.
living my purpose. I would never, I was a hairstylist, I was a party girl, like I didn't have any higher calling. I just wanted to make the world beautiful. And,
Yeah.
it was crazy. And then now I'm like in the deep trenches of helping save people's lives. Like What a beautiful gift that is.
Yes, absolutely. It is. And we need more people like that. We need more people like you. So,
And you spreading the awareness and, like I said, being the cool kid because you've got a bigger audience than
oh
I do.
God.
So it's awesome. We're going to actually break for a commercial right now, but make sure you stick around to the very end because we have an amazing giveaway that you're not going to want to miss. Stay tuned.
Put a better life in your hands and on your wrist. NIKKI plus Lyme frequency set is designed to help you get back to the life you enjoyed before Lyme. After 45 days, you also gain access to the NIKKI Platinum suite of 8 frequency sets and 5 frequency set bundles. Every NIKKI comes loaded with a full inventory of frequency set, including pain, energy, travel, immune, stress and anxiety, viruses and bacteria, allergies, insomnia, daytime bundles, nighttime bundles. NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. A better life, guaranteed. If NIKKI doesn't improve your wellness and sense of well-being in 30 days, send it back for a full refund. Free shipping, free platinum set of frequencies for life, 30-day money-back guarantee. NIKKI, be better, do better. We are NIKKI.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. And if you missed the first half, you missed a lot. Beautiful, amazing story, very common story of those of us that have had chronic illness, chronic Lyme, and some of the fun gaslighting that we've gotten from the medical world and just all the fun stuff that is Lyme disease. But I'd love to dig a little deeper into, what were some of the things that you did that you found most helpful during your your treatment protocol, not just treatment protocol, because a lot of folks that I know, when they've gotten better, it's because they've put in all sorts of different foundations, right? And so can you talk to us a little bit of some of the stuff that you did on your journey?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, where to even start? So I love the expression when referring to Lyme and tick-borne disease treatment, it's like peeling an onion, right? Because so many times when I was in the thick of my treatment, I would be like, oh my God, this isn't working, this isn't doing it, blah, blah, blah. And then when I would look back, I would realize all of these teeny little incremental improvements that I had made, and the fact that they actually added up into, these big steps forward. So if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm in the thick of it, nothing's helping." It's hard not to think that way when you're in it, but just know that really each and everything adds up. So I would say early on, after we figured out that I had Lyme and tick-borne diseases, and after we figured out that I was a little bit more of a complex case than my first MD thought I was going to be, because initially I was told, oh, I was diagnosed at I was 21 turning 22. Um, they had told me, oh, you're young, you're fine, you're gonna be fine in 6 months. You're gonna be done with this. And of course, that is not what happened. So once they kind of figured out that I was a little bit more of a complex case, I would say the first thing that really, really made a massive difference for me was getting a PICC line and doing IV Rocephin. That's really what took me from being basically bedridden to upright, and able to, get out of bed on my own and all of those things. So IV antibiotics really, really helped me. And I get so many messages on Instagram that are like, oh my God, my doctor wants to put a PICC line in my arm, or they want to do IV antibiotics or whatever, and they think it's the end of the world. And for me, it was a blessing. Um, and it sounds so convoluted, but I have days still where I like miss my PICC line and the trauma that it took off of my body to receive medication. So IV Rocephin and a PICC line really, really helped. I did daily amino acid infusions that helped me a lot. I was finally diagnosed with dysautonomia and specific antibody deficiency. Um, and on the dysautonomia piece, I mean, now for my care, I work with two doctors, one of them being Dr. Richard Horowitz, who I absolutely adore, who kind of figured out a cocktail of medication for me that really keeps my POTS in check. And most of it, honestly, I don't even need anymore. And I'll get to that piece of it. And then with the specific antibody deficiency piece, the treatment for that is immunoglobulin therapy. So it's, immune globulins, it's from human blood donations. And I infuse it subcutaneously once a week. And I think a lot of Lyme and tick-borne disease patients have immunodeficiencies, and their doctors just don't know to look for them. And patients are so adverse, as am I, to seeing like regular quote unquote specialists because they're just not believed. And it starts this whole line of questioning around their tick-borne disease diagnoses. They just go undiagnosed from these immunodeficiencies. And I'm a big believer in it's one of the missing pieces of the puzzle for getting better, because if you're feeding your body all of these things and you're killing and killing and killing, but you're not supporting your immune system, then what is supposed to fight the disease? So I personally infuse Hizentra. That's been a big help for me, and one of the things that's really helped me to get better and has helped my body to be strong enough to fight. I just got finished doing Dapsone, double Dapsone, and then quad Dapsone with Dr. Richard Horowitz, and I have to say it's one of the things I feel like that has helped me the most in the last 9 years. I'm pretty highly functioning now. I still have my days, like we all do. And I still have a few more courses of double and quad dapsone to do because my Bartonella is still hanging out, but we've cleared a lot of infection, and I'm pretty highly functioning now. And I can't say enough good things about it. So I would say that's kind of like the hard and fast medical category. And then, I'm sure like most people, I do a lot of alternative therapy for maintenance. I do weekly lymphatic drainage. It's a huge thing for me. I do red light therapy every morning and every night. It helps to wake my brain up. It helps with any kind of acne that I get from like the detox of actively treating. It helps my skin. It's been shown to help with immune function, lung function, all of these things. Because I have had COVID a few times. I also have an infrared sauna. I think that's very, very important for detoxing our bodies, not just from regular environmental toxins, but also all of the dead schmutz that's like dying off, when we're treating. And I think that can really weigh us down, and can be part of the reason that we're not feeling better. And I think those are the main things. I'm sure I could go on and on and on about it for like another hour, because if you're a tick-borne listener, we've all tried a million things, but I'll cut myself off there.
Well, and it's sad because we haven't been listened to for so long, and you really do have to think outside of the box. There's
Yeah.
controversial stuff out there, and there was
Oh yeah.
at one point some of the stuff that I tried that people were like, "I'm sorry, you're doing what?" But
Yeah.
it was a lot of those things that actually moved the needle the most for me. So
Yeah.
one of them would be like, so what's been your experience with the Wave 1 or the NIKKI?
I was gonna say, it's interesting and like piggybacking off of everything I just said, a lot of these quote unquote controversial therapies are very, very heavily practiced and have been forever in other countries. Everything from ozone therapy to, things like PRP and prolozone and all these other things. But yeah, I would throw frequency technology in there. And it's interesting because I connected with the founder of NIKKI back in March. And it was right after I was a guest on another very popular podcast that I'm very dear friends with one of the co-hosts, Tick Bootcamp, with Matt Sabatello. And I got to co-host an episode where we interviewed Dr. Michael Snyder of the Snyder Lab at Stanford. Like, you really can't get much more of a prestigious name than Stanford. And he has a whole lab that is dedicated to monitoring what is happening in our body, and a lot of it is tied to frequency. So that really opened my eyes to frequency and technology and like medical wearables, if you will. And then I met Stephen, and who told me all about the NIKKI and all about the use of frequency and how these different frequencies can do these different things for our system and so on and so forth. And he was kind enough to send me one. And this is my favorite story to tell about the NIKKI. Most people that know me know I am not a good sleeper. I have never been a good sleeper, even since before I got sick. I am absolutely an insomniac. And the first night that I wore the NIKKI, um, I put it on the insomnia frequency and I was asleep within a half hour, which has never happened to me in my entire life, has never happened to me. So right there, I was kind of like, oh my God, this works. Like this is powerful. And I pretty much have worn it every day since. And I tend to bop between the nighttime and insomnia frequencies. I use a lot of the anxiety and stress frequency because I am naturally a very high strung, like we were saying before, type A anxious person. And it really does help. And when I have like my bad days or I'm on my cycle or whatever it is, you bet that I have that pain frequency like strapped to my wrist like nobody's business. Um, and they really do help and they really do help to dull whatever it is that you need. So it's interesting and I'm absolutely like a convert for life now. So
It's funny. So when I met Steven, it was on my podcast, and I'm an
yeah.
entrepreneur at heart, right? Like to the core, I'm an entrepreneur. I can
Hmm.
work well with other people. So we don't ask to work for other people. That's like not
Yeah.
it's not in my nature. But by the time we got done, I hadn't even tried his product yet. But I had worked enough with Rife and other technologies to
Mhm.
know what it was that he was using in his product. And at the end of the podcast, when we were done, I'm like, I don't know if you have a spot for me, but you need to find a spot for me. Like, I have to be involved
Yeah.
in your company somehow. And he's like, I feel the same way about you. And then he sent
Oh.
me one. And it's funny because I hadn't flared or had anything with Lyme issues for
Mhm.
3 years. And so I was like,
Wow.
I'm not going to really feel much from this. No, I put it on and like my brain would be scrambled for a little while. And I'm like, what the heck is going
Yeah.
on? And I'm like, oh, I am having a slight Herx response. Like,
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
that interesting? And so my husband, allergies, sneeze, sneeze, sneeze. I
Mm.
slapping them on,
Mhm.
put allergies on every single time. It's not just like this one time coincidence. Every single time he stops sneezing. Like it's insane
Uh,
the amount of money
yeah.
he's been able to save from allergy medications.
Yeah. And I've heard that on the allergy setting from other people that it's one of the few things that has really helped them and made a difference, especially this past season where it's just been horrible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right. With all the moisture that we're getting across. I mean,
yeah.
Colorado is like a record this year. At one point, they said we
Yeah.
actually beat Seattle for rainfall.
Oh my God.
Colorado. I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not supposed to happen
Yeah.
here.
No, it's been wild. It's
Yeah,
been bad.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go into a little more lifestyle type changes, right?
Mhm.
That have you had to make? Because that's, I love that you talked about the alternative stuff. Because you can't, like you said, you can't just focus on treatment. And that's one thing.
Yeah.
And what I love about the Lyme Bites conference that's coming up is all those practitioners there for the first time. I'm
Mhm.
hearing people
Yes.
not focusing on treatment.
Yes.
And so what were some of them, like more of the lifestyle stuff that you put into place?
It all goes hand in hand, and I really think you can't do like one thing without the other when it comes to like Western alternative diet, lifestyle changes, like you're saying. It tick-borne illness really flipped my life upside down, but it made me realize what really matters um, in life. So it's funny because I felt like before this, and I still am a very driven person. I have my own company, very, very driven. I want to achieve a lot in this lifetime, but now it's not just all centered around work. So I feel like the first big lifestyle change was living more of a balanced life. Taking up things like meditation. I have a very non-traditional spiritual practice. My bestie is a spiritual medium, so like really opened me up to things like meditation and things like frequency and sound baths and spiritual cards and really gut checking like my intuition. So it really made me more of a balanced person, in the fact that I like no longer live to work. It's just a piece of my life that I enjoy, and I'm really lucky and privileged that I can say that. I would also say it made me take up more things to do them just because I like them, and because they bring me joy. You know, like I love to garden, and things like Pilates. I do Pilates every single day. I have a reformer in my house, and things like really wanting to be like flexible, elongating muscles, moving so nothing gets like stuck in my joints and my muscles and things like that, my tissues. Diet was a really, really big one. One of the first things that my initial doctor did after diagnosis was he took me off of gluten, dairy, soy, corn, and sugar, right? And
Woohoo!
I know, I still live by that mostly, but it has been modified quite a bit over the last 9 years. And I think it's, you know, it's number one, I have a different outlook on how I eat and what I put in my body. And number two, it has a lot to do with now that I'm healthier, my body can just handle more. So one of my favorite sayings is by the team at Case Integrative Health, where what they preach is that you live moderately so you can have moments of indulgence, right? So I wouldn't say for me that anything is like completely off the table to put in my body, right? Like somebody's going to cringe listening to this, but every once in a while, if I want like an ice cold, like Coca-Cola, or if I want a hamburger or something that's like quote unquote normal for most people to eat, but for me, I normally wouldn't touch, you know, I eat it and I don't feel bad about it. And I go back to my regular routine and it is what it is, but I've enjoyed that moment thoroughly. So it's worth it. Um, so, you know, that's ebbed and flowed a lot. And now I'm not completely gluten free. It really depends on where the gluten is coming from because I've noticed I do better with things like imported semolina flour from Italy than I do with gluten-free products, you know, you'd buy at the grocery store or Whole Foods. So I opt a lot now to either make my own things at home, like with that flour, or to seek out ingredients that are imported with that flour. So it's not gluten-free, but it's not the stuff that we're normally eating here, right? And as far
Don't
as dairy
realize that
goes,
there's so many things
yes,
illegal in the food
yes,
system across the United States that we allow. So I could see
absolutely.
how you would do better on a product that's imported than something that's
Yes.
here in the USA.
Well, and I noticed it, you know, I've spent a lot of time the last 9 or 10 years with my parents in across Europe. And it's funny because when we would go over there, I would quote unquote indulge in whatever I wanted to eat, but I didn't notice any change in how I felt. And that's when it really clicked for me. I was like, oh, I feel fine here. I can eat all of these things and it doesn't bother me and I'm not bloated and, you know, I'm not running to the bathroom and whatever. So over the course of time, it's really changed how I eat. And like, for example, imported burrata, I can eat imported burrata and I am fine.
What's brought?
Or it's a form of like mozzarella, but the inside is very like liquidy. Um, it's made differently. It has different proteins and different enzymes, so your body breaks it down differently.
Sounds
Um, but it's interesting because if you buy like an Americanized version of it, it's made completely differently and it won't sit the same in your body. And you know, I'm Italian, I'm Sicilian, and we've spent a lot of time the last handful of years with our family in Sicily. And that's how I've learned a lot of these things is like really being in the thick of it and seeing how things are made and how different it is. But so all that to say, my diet has ebbed and flowed over time. And then when I started working with Dr. Horowitz last year, um, I really couldn't eat a lot of things. I would get very bad stomach aches and very bad hives all over my body when I would eat certain things. And he was like, do you have MCAS? And I was like, no, I don't have MCAS. Of course, what do I have? I have MCAS. And no one had ever tested me correctly for it. So I went on a low histamine diet and I did that for about a year and my hives dissipated. And over the course of last year, as I've done treatment, my body is stronger. Now there's a lot of things that I can eat that I couldn't eat before. For example, like all tomatoes for me a year ago, because they're very high in histamine, complete no go. Whereas now I can do yellow tomatoes, right? Because they're lower in histamine. It doesn't bother me. I still can't do garlic at all. It makes me violently ill. So there are certain things that are kind of abnormal that I still can't eat that are just specific to my body. But I will say if you have a lot of unexplained like food intolerance, and no like allergies coming back, try a low histamine diet and see how you feel. Because for me, that has made the biggest difference, I would say.
Oh, it's hilarious too, because so often, we get told that these foods are the healthy foods, right? Fermented
Hmm.
foods, bone broth.
Yeah.
I was doing all the things, as a functional practitioner. I was
Hmm.
following like a Western A Price, and I was making kefir, I was making bone broth, I was
Hmm.
making kvass, I was making sauerkraut.
Yeah.
And man, within like 2 weeks, I was in excruciating pain and my headaches were insane. And I don't normally get headaches. And it turned
Yeah.
out that I had the issues with the histamines, and all those foods, the ferments, the leftovers, the bone broths are all high in histamine. And so it cracks
Yeah.
me up when anybody touts one thing as being healthy, because it's not, what's one, healthy to one person is poison to another.
Yeah. And that it's a great point, and it's kind of what makes me crazy about people and a lot of people online with these huge followings that preach and say everybody should be doing X, Y, or Z, right? Because it's like, yeah, it might be great for you, and it might be great for a percent of your followers or your community, whatever it is, but I just don't think that there's a blanket statement for everybody, right? Like, yes, I do believe bone broth extremely nourishing. I still drink it when I'm sick or like when I had COVID or things like that. And I just dealt with the histamine reaction because I needed something nourishing in my body. But like day to day, is it good for me? No, I shouldn't be suffering from hives, right? Like day to day, let's not do that. Um, so yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you on that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing your story, and, giving people hope and the advocacy that you're doing out there. Like, what a blessing you are to this community. And I'm just so grateful to be on this journey with you. And thank you for, like I said, teaching us a little bit more about your story and what you've been through. Do you have any last thoughts, any last lingering nuggets you want to land on us?
If you have Lyme or a tick-borne disease and you are struggling or you feel isolated, please just know that you are not alone. There are a lot of people out there like you. Look for communities. I know Heather mentioned it earlier. I'm lucky enough to sit on the board of Project Lyme, right? And they help fund support groups like places through Generation Lyme. And there's a really, really strong Instagram hub of patients. So, like, search the hashtag Lyme disease hashtag and send DMs and connect with other people. And I've found some of my very, very dearest friends through this community that I'm so grateful for. So, if you're feeling alone, send me a message. Look on Instagram for people. There's people that want to support you and want to connect. So just don't lose hope. And I'm proof 9 years later, that you can get healthy. It takes some time, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
It's funny, as we're speaking today, I was undiagnosed for over 27 years. And
Hmm.
on my Facebook memory, it was 12 years ago today that I finally got my confirmation of Lyme disease. So that's where I've been on this journey. And man, all the different layers of that onion I've peeled back. It's incredible. And we
Yeah.
change it for the world, because like I said, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So very
Hmm.
grateful. And if you heard anything, any inspiration, any hope, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this type of knowledge, right? That's how we end
Hmm.
up spreading hope around the world, is with your help. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And then while you're at it, if you want to learn more about the NIKKI products, you can go to wearenikki.com/podcast, and make sure to use the code BioBeats for 10% off. Also, I had alluded to this before, but we're going to do a giveaway because we just love you guys so much. And we're just so excited to be able to give back to the community. We're giving away a NIKKI every episode. And so you'll want to make sure that you go to the show notes and follow the directions there on each episode on how you can win your own NIKKI. Not NIKKI with Lyme, but the base model NIKKI, which helps with energy, helps with sleep that Alia talked about. It's got that allergy setting, the pain setting, so much more. But the details on how to enter that will be in the show notes. So make sure that you check that out and enter to win. Good luck and have a healthy day.
There's a new word for wellness, NIKKI. NIKKI, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. NIKKI is about helping you do better. NIKKI takes bioenergetic frequency science to a new level and onto your wrist. NIKKI technology carries frequencies into the body to organize and optimize the cellular network, the trillions of cells that communicate by light and frequencies to keep us alive and feeling our best. Physical and mental trauma can upset cellular communication, and NIKKI is designed to help restore it. Touch the NIKKI screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Low energy? Touch energy for a boost. Stressed out? Stress and anxiety is to calm you down. Aches and pains? Choose NIKKI Pain. NIKKI has frequency sets intended to fight allergies, strengthen immunity, and keep viruses and bacteria at bay. If you're going on a trip and want to arrive fresh and ready to enjoy your vacation, touch travel. And if you want to wake up ready to go, NIKKI Nighttime is for overcoming daytime trauma while you sleep. Every NIKKI comes loaded with a full inventory of frequency set, including pain, energy, travel, immune, stress and anxiety, viruses and bacteria, allergies, insomnia, daytime bundles, nighttime bundles. NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are NIKKI.com. All-in-one wellness for Lyme sufferers. NIKKI plus Lyme is designed to overcome Lyme symptoms and support a better life following recovery. NIKKI plus Lyme offers the most advanced bioenergetic science in an attractive watch-size wearable. Lyme is the fastest growing vector-borne disease in the world, with over 500,000 cases diagnosed each year in North America alone. NIKKI brings non-invasive, drug-free, and doctor-endorsed frequency technology to the symptoms of this debilitating chronic disease that defies traditional approaches to recovery. NIKKI puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are NIKKI.com.